Welcome to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast, where we explore personal, professional, and financial success stories of top achievers. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Pathways to Prosperity for Entrepreneurs, the podcast where we celebrate visionaries turning their passion into impactful ventures. I'm Terrence Shabillion, and today we're diving into the world of Confide Group with Larry Whiteside. How's it going today, Larry?
Going great.
Awesome. Hey, Larry, can you give us a quick snapshot of your business and where you're at right now? Maybe what your company does?
Yeah, sure. So Confide is a cybersecurity reseller, right? So we resell both products and services aligned to the market of cybersecurity. So if you are a company who's got cyber issues, if you have a cyber leader or don't, right? Confide is an organization that can help you both create your strategy, assess where you are today, but also bring the services and technology to bear that are going to help you be better tomorrow.
Awesome. So, as the owner of many of small businesses that aren't quite to the maybe to the level of where I think I need cybersecurity, uh, just out of curiosity, at what point in time do companies need to really start considering that?
Honestly, if you are a business that is on the internet and or has any data related to what you do or customers you serve, you should probably think about having someone, whether you hire them or whether you outsource it, having someone that is going to assess your cybersecurity controls that you have in place. Because today, attackers don't care how big or how small you are. They just want money.
Absolutely. Okay. So, there's a lot of competition in your space. I mean, I can't testify to exactly what you do in your space, but what sets you apart and maybe what comes easy to you that others find challenging?
Yeah, so our differentiator is really the simple notion of partnership. So for most companies that resell and are really going to market to sell cyber technologies, it is a very transactional thing, right? For me and for my team, it's a relational thing. At the end of the day, so I've held the role of a chief information security officer about 8 times over my career. And so having sat in that seat for big, multinational global corporations, and medium-sized companies, I recognize the challenge in the role being responsible for cyber of trying to solve the cyber problem. So trying to find cyber services, trying to find cyber technologies that are going to help me reduce risk and mitigate threats to my business. And so with that, finding organizations who will partner with me versus just throw things across the fence at me was always a challenge. And so I created this business specifically because I know that companies and cyber executives need a partner more than they need a salesperson. And so that's what I do. That's what my team does. We come in, we meet on a regular basis because we want to understand where you're at. We want to understand where you want to go. And then we want to be the person that saves you the time of you not having to go to the market to do it. We're going to be that on your behalf. It's almost like a broker. If you think about how brokers, right, when you're investing, brokers are going out and identifying what's happening in the market, and they're coming back to you like, hey, here are a couple of ideas based on the strategies you told me you want to implement. Here's a couple of ideas. We do the same model. It is, hey, these are the problems that you're having. Great. We'll go help you figure out what's going to help you solve those problems, and we're going to come back to the table. And it saves our customers time, it saves them a lot of effort, and it actually gives them an extension of their company that they're not having to actually pay for because the market is taking care of it.
I can definitely appreciate what you're doing there from that side. As I said, with my businesses growing very quickly, I find myself having to educate myself on aspects as the business is growing of different things and products and deciding what fits our business model and how to best get it implemented and who to hand it off to. And so I appreciate that side of that due diligence and someone that has that expertise to be able to look at my business and say, hey, this is where I feel this is best fit for you.
That's right.
Especially as we're growing. And for me, I love relationships. I think that's the heartbeat of any successful, especially local business models, that you have to create those partnerships and with people that create win-win. So yeah, I definitely see that side of it. Um, if someone listening to us right now wanted to get into what you're doing, any aspect of it, um, what do you suggest they do, or maybe what's a few tips to get them started?
Yeah, so in this business, first off, you have to understand the market of cyber. The market of cyber is way more vast than most people realize. From the technology ecosystem, where startups are coming from, how they're getting funded, who they're getting funded by, all the way to the execution of them becoming a full-fledged product and company that's offering products, but then also the service market. There's a whole lot of messaging aligned around all of them that make them all seem very similar when in reality they're very different. So it is getting a good understanding of what the cyber ecosystem looks like and what it's made up of, but then also understanding business. At the end of the day, businesses are built to make money, right? And so if you cannot understand A, how a business makes money, and then how technology and cyber introduce risk to them making money, and then understand the nuance of how to mitigate said risk, right? To enable them to operate more securely towards making that money. Like those are the things that you have to pull together, right, in order to do. And I'll tell you, if I didn't have 33 years of cyber experience, I don't know if I'd be taking this journey. But the experience that I have, both from the cyber market of being a practitioner, but also being an advisor to over 60 companies in my career, and being partnered and connected with a number of the back end investors and investment communities, whether it's private equity or venture capital in the market, it gives me a holistic view of what the market looks like and how it operates and moves about that I can then bring the value to my customer base. And so if you're trying to start in this industry, you got to start with getting that institutional knowledge associated with the broadness of the cyber market, or hiring people and bringing people into your team that have that big, broad knowledge base.
Wow. Yeah. For me, as I think of once again not being in this field of it, it's like making sure that my computer has antivirus protection. From a layman's term of things, obviously, we're not running those big systems yet, but it's something that we expect to have to deal with shortly. And when you look at other people's businesses from the outside in, it seems like it's very simple until you get a more in-depth explanation, of what they're doing.
Right.
Um, so when you mention, just for clarification, I always like to be able to make sure that our listeners understand what that is. When you say you're a reseller, are you implementing these systems too, or are you just finding the right systems that fit and turning them over, or how does that work from that side?
It really depends on the client. If the client needs help installing and implementing the technologies, we can absolutely provide that, right? But for the most part, most of the companies and most that I have as customers, they have their own implementation teams. And a lot of times our tech partners have implementation teams that they will utilize as well. So for us, it's however it needs to happen. At the end of the day, our goal is to help the customer succeed. And that succeeding can be us or the tech partner doing it or them doing it themselves, depending on the size of their organization. But at the end of the day, our customer success is where we win.
Mhm. I like the aspect of the way that your business is set up is that I'm not offering one product and
Right.
everyone needs it. It's really about, what best fits you.
That's right.
And from our side of it, in all of our businesses, we don't have a one size fits everyone at all. We have a very specific market and, we're very straightforward about that. And we want to reach our target audience, whereas, your target audience is a little wider for sure. But you have those solutions that, you can get them the right solutions, and it's not my solution, it's your solution.
And
Um,
well, and here's the important part about this is so many people, especially as it relates to technology, they assess the technology that they're going to buy just based on the problem that it solves, right? So, hey, I've got a problem and I need a widget, right? And oh, this widget says it solves this particular problem. But guess what? If you invest in buying the widget from the wrong company, what if that company goes out of business in 18 months, right? That may have been something that you would have been able to assess up front. right? Does that company have issues with the Better Business Bureau? That's something you may have been able to assess up front. And so when one of the things that we do is we look far more broadly and holistically at a company to measure their success and whether they're going to be successful. Because it's not just do they have a good widget, it's do they have a product that solves my problem, and are they a company that I would want to do business with? Right? Who are the founders? Who are the executives at that company? Like, so for us, we try and bring a holistic approach to choosing a technology partner that we're going to partner with. Because at the end of the day, to your point earlier, these are partners. When you're bringing on a technology to support and enable your business, you're now partnering with them. And your hope and prayer is that they're going to have a great support set up. So when a problem happens, because it's technology, a problem will happen. You can call somebody and reach somebody and they're going to help you. You want to know that, hey, they're not someone who's got 8 lawsuits out there because the technology has failed and done harm or done damage to another customer, right? So there's so many aspects in viewing and picking a partner in general, but a technology partner that's going to be at the core of your business, that we try and be very, very diligent in that process.
I love that aspect. I've never looked at it that way for my technology. I've definitely been pick a problem to solve it, and find what's supposed to solve it. And your business model is exactly the same as ours across many different businesses that we own, and that, it's a partnership, and we don't recommend anybody through our businesses or use anyone through our businesses that we haven't done the due diligence on.
Right.
When you mentioned reseller, I just imagine you went out and found whatever products fit the solution. And, from that side, it's great to hear that, you're going beyond, is it just this widget to fix this,
Yeah.
which is easy. At the end of the day, if that's all you want to do, it's easy to find
Right.
something and hand it off to people, but it makes it hard to have long-term relationships.
Well, and for me, it represents me. Right?
Hmm.
So I'm a faith-based guy, and so I think everything that I do in business is an extension of me. So if it comes
Hmm.
from me or my team, like that's representative of us. And so if it fails on the other end, right, then I feel culpable, right? I
Hmm.
feel responsible. And so that's something that I don't want. And that's why I said for me, even though I'm not getting paid, right, ultimately by the customer, my margin comes off of the deals. It is, I feel that the customer, because this is where the risk lies, is with the company. That's where the risk lies. Because if this technology doesn't solve the problem, they're the ones who end up going out of business.
Hmm. Yeah. Or even if they're not going out of business, I think so many businesses focus on new customers instead of,
That's
who's the
exactly right.
easiest person to sell to as a business owner is people that have already bought from you. They already know, like, and trust you. And I think too many businesses don't put a focus on growing their business, at least a chunk of it, through repeat customers.
Yep.
And that's for us in our businesses. If we don't absolutely know the people that we're recommending, we don't do it. We don't want that to come back on us, and we don't want that to be part of our name. And, those relationships are earned. So, it's
Right.
refreshing to hear that, even though, once again, it's not my field, but I would have thought it was more of, this is the project, the widget that fixes it, and I know how to put all these widgets together for you.
Yeah.
Um, which,
That's the typical model, unfortunately.
yes.
Very
But
transactional.
yes, and it makes it hard to, go back to them when half of what you gave them works because you didn't care, you
That's
know.
exactly right.
From that side of it, um, yeah, I love it. I love that aspect. To me, that's doing business the right way,
Yeah.
and it
Yep.
shows, and, makes business easy.
Yep.
So, hey, Larry, what's one of the biggest challenges you had to overcome in your career?
Man, so honestly, so I'll say this. I'm gonna try not to tear up. So I was I said I'm an ex-military officer. In our conversation.
Well,
So I
thank
was
you for your service.
yes, sir. Yeah, it's my pleasure, honestly. Military service was one of the things that I enjoyed the most, but my most challenging thing ever was 9/11. So, being working at the Pentagon from 98 to 2002, 9/11 was one of those days that, you know, no one will ever forget. And it goes down for me as one of the hardest things. At the time, I didn't see my wife or two newborn children. I had twins at the time who were born in '99. I didn't see them for 3 days because of just what had gone on at the Pentagon, what my responsibilities were, and the things that I had to do. And so for me, that was by far the most challenging time I've ever had in my career. But a number of things that I took from it was right is there's as I thought about it years later, I don't think there's ever going to be a larger area of chaos that I'll be involved in, right? And I've deployed and done all that stuff, but to respond to something that way, it's made every other aspect of response for ransomware and breaches and all the other things. People are looking at me like, how can you work through these things for so many hours and how can you stay so calm and how when things aren't going the right way, how can you pivot so quickly and so smoothly? It's because I had a challenge. I had a unique, um, unthought of, unheard of before type challenge that I faced and worked through that gave me sort of a perspective of there's nothing too big, and to feel blessed for the small things, right? So even today, right, when the people come to me, hey, how you doing today? I say, I'm blessed. I woke up today. That's a start, right? And so I look at the small things in my life, and recognize each of them as a blessing. So when I come into big things, like, listen, right? Somebody's mother, father, son, brother, sister didn't wake up today. So I did. So I've got an opportunity to be great. I've got an opportunity to accomplish something. I've got an opportunity, right? And so I look at every moment of every day in that way. And I slip every now and then. Somebody cuts me off in traffic. I'm like, hey, right? But at the end of the day, for me, every little thing is a blessing. So with that big challenge came more insight.
Awesome. I love that little tidbit you slipped in there. It's everybody. Uh, there's two things to being successful that I found to be a key. Is one that I'm not perfect, and two that it takes everything you have, and anything less doesn't get you there.
That's right.
And like you said, you talk about those big things. And the 3 days that I was gone away from my family, and never didn't even get to see them, talk to them, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So many people aren't willing to make those sacrifices, and at the same time, they're not willing. They don't. They're only looking towards the end. They're not enjoying the journey. You
Right.
know, um,
That's right.
and I think both of those are critically important. And that you have to be willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. And most time, most people just aren't willing to do that. So, once again, I appreciate your service and what you've done to help our country, and especially at that point in time that was unprecedented for us.
Yeah.
Um, whew. But it sounds like things are going well for you and your business. A lot of our guests are looking towards the future and how they can create passive income or enhance or even replace their current active income. Um, what are your thoughts about that? And what are you possibly doing personally for yourself and your family to leave that legacy?
Yeah, so for me, everything is about finding a way to create passive income that can then be passed on, right? So if I don't know if you've read the book about what were the Rockefellers to, right? And so the Rockefellers, for many people don't realize the Rockefellers are the only historically rich family that from the 1800s that is still wealthy, right? The Vanderbilts, and there are a number of other families, I forget their names off the top of my head now, that basically they lost all their fortunes. And the Rockefellers have over $10 billion in their family fund, right? And family members get dividends and all these different things, and they still have over $10 billion, right? So I've read incessantly about them, looking at the processes and the things that they put in place to enable this. And I'm trying to change the or trajectory of my family lineage, right? I grew up poor, I grew up in the hood and all these things, but I'm trying to make my children think differently, right? And really create wealth. And that create wealth spans a number of different things, right? Which is it. You've got your regular investments in stocks and bonds and ETFs and those types of things, but it's also investing in businesses, right? My wife and I've got 4 businesses, right? And our goal, and 2 of them are less than a year old, and they've been losing money, but through the implementation of processes and all these other things, we see the trajectory and what's possible. So we're investing through the loss, and we're writing off the loss, and that's all fine and good. But we recognize the end goal is this revenue generation where our businesses are running without us being there, and we've got cash flow happening that's then taking that and investing into other things that's enabling more growth, and it's trying to get to that point of exponential growth where money's being made when we're on an island, right? While we're on a plane, while we're sleeping. And so that's sort of the pathway for us, is growing all of these different businesses in ways that is going to enable cash flow to happen without our interaction down the
Mhm.
path, and continue this wealth growth that hopefully spans generations. So long after I'm gone, I will have set in motion and built the mechanism that, 5 generations from now, I can have, great, 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 I don't know many great grandchildren that are able to participate and receive the benefit of me basically taking the bull by the horns and trying to start something different than what the rest of the family for generations has done.
Yeah, no, it's exciting when I get to hear people that have chosen to go along the same path that I am, and structuring generational wealth for their family, and it's a sense of pride. My story is very similar to yours, starting out in the projects and having nothing and fighting and earning everything, and to now be in a position where we are structuring generational wealth for our families that will be structured to go on infinitely.
Right.
As you mentioned, the Rockefellers, they say, to me, my belief is that when you truly die is when the last time people mention you, and I want to be on the mantle at the family house that they come to once a year. And, my great, great, great grandfather, who I don't even know who my great grandfather's name,
Right.
let alone, anybody
Right.
else from that side, and it isn't just about me, but it's also being able to set up so that my family could start on my shoulders,
That's
you know,
it.
and I think so many people look at wealth as what can it do for me? And, we're blessed to have moved beyond that part and to be able to say, okay, what do we do for the future? You
Yep.
know, and I think a lot of people don't even think that far. It's just, I want to, and once again, it's everybody's journey is their own. But, to understanding that aspect of, how can I leave something different for the future? Because, uh, as you mentioned, the other wealthy families, the reason why the money disappears, that saying it takes 3 generations, one to
Yep.
make it, you know, one to spend it and one to destroy it,
Yep.
and I don't want to leave that. I don't want wealthy, socialites. I want,
Right.
to leave my family in a situation where all of them could continue to do well and grow from what we've done if they're willing to put the work in and, go forward from there. So I love that, meeting other people who have that same dream and aspect to what they're doing.
Yep.
As we're wrapping up our interview, what exciting plans or initiatives? I know you mentioned a couple other businesses you started, or do you have in the works for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so for the next 6 to 12 months, right? So we've got the pool fence and the privacy fence business that is growing. We're extremely happy about that. We've got a great team that's out, out in the field doing those installations. For Confide, it's really about growing visibility, and just bringing on more customers, right? So I travel around the country doing lunch and dinner events with potential customers, right? Having conversations, telling them about what we're doing, talking about a number of different things from a cyber perspective, and just really telling our value proposition of why, right? And sharing my why. So whether I'm on stage, on a webinar, or something, I'm getting the message out about our why, because I think that it's time for the market to change. There's too much complexity and too much lack of transparency. And so for me, being a partner, being transparent, and being right a confidant. And the reason we named the company Confide is because I said, listen, confide is you confide in me, I'm your confidant, right? This is confidential, and you can have confidence in who I am, right? And so for me, the next 6 to 12 months is continuing to build this brand, sign up customers, sign up tech partners, and really just solve problems for people, and live according to what I think God has built me for, right? I tell people all the time. So I'm a man of faith. I think God built me on purpose for a purpose. And my purpose has always been from day one, when I joined this industry, was to help others. And I've done it in a lot of different ways. I co-founded a global not-for-profit. I've done a lot of different things. But this is one of the first times that I can see holistically, I have an ability to help an entire market, right, change the narrative of how selling happens. Because everybody that I speak to literally says, I'm tired of getting emails about products. I'm tired of people chasing me down about products. I'm tired of LinkedIn, everybody trying to sell me something. Like I've got work to do. My email box is 80% sales emails. Like they want to get work done and they want to solve problems for their companies, and then they want to go home. They want to spend time with their families. They want to spend time. And so for me, if I can be a part of helping them get better use of their time and help them secure their organizations, that'll give them back the time that they need to go be with their family and go do the things they love. For me, that makes me extremely happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I everything you said there, I agree with. I feel like that's 90% of my job is sorting through the trash of people trying to sell us stuff,
Right?
makes it kind of tough from that side.
It
Um,
does. And listen, there's nothing wrong with salespeople.
mhm,
Salespeople, you and I are ultimately salespeople. It is a part of what we do and as entrepreneurs, right? But there's a way to selling that is relational, and there's a way to selling that's transactional, right? And for me, it's the transactional selling that we tend to get the most right of. And so for me, it's relational selling. People know me when I introduce myself. I'm not going to ask about your company. I'm going to ask for things that matter to you. Hey, how many kids do you have? Hey, what school did you graduate from? Right? Things that matter to you that go to enable me to create a connection with you so we get to know each other. What sports do you like? What food? Right? I'm going to ask you questions to engage, to learn you as a person, because honestly, I do care. Are you a person of faith? And it's okay if you're not, because guess what? We're all different in some way, shape, or form. But it's
mhm,
understanding those differences and being able to still want to see others be able to achieve good things.
absolutely. Excuse me. Well, Larry, I appreciate you coming on today and taking the time and sharing these insights with us and tips. If people would like to connect with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so there's really two ways. It's pretty easy. On LinkedIn, Larry Whiteside Jr. I'm the only Larry Whiteside Jr. out there, so it's pretty easy. Or you can reach me via my email, and I give my email out pretty openly. Larry@confide.group. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, once again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this with us, and we definitely look forward to hearing from you in the future and how things are going for you.
thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Got a success story to share? Visit pathwaystoprosperitypodcast.com/guest and apply today.